This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, JM Ryerson.
Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to a Tuesday tune-up on the Let's Go Win podcast. And today's episode is, I'm calling it my Ayahuasca Experience, because it's something that I went on an ayahuasca retreat on May 20th through the 27th in Costa Rica. So what is ayahuasca? Let's just start there, because often people have heard the name. It's a spelling that gets by most people. That's Ayahuasca, ayahuasca. And remember, the whole intent and purpose of this show is to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy. And my purpose of going on this retreat was to really dig deep into my subconscious. And so what ayahuasca is it's a plant medicine. Now, when I was first introduced to it, I put it in the drug category because it is a psychedelic. Now, this is way outside of my comfort zone, guys. So we're clear. I've never done any psychedelics whatsoever. I'm somewhat drug averse. I don't care if you do drugs. That's, hey, your business. In fact, some of my best friends that they are pro mushrooms or some other forms of these psychedelics, but I've always put it in that category of I have a very addictive personality, and I don't want to get addicted to something awesome like, I don't know, mushrooms or cocaine or something like that. So I've always avoided drugs. My only real vice is alcohol. So when I first heard about ayahuasca, I was really introduced to it by Mark Palomba, someone that had worked with me before. He had gone on a retreat, and he said, hey, man, you need to check this out. And so I did. I started doing this research, and he told me about this amazing, amazing company called One Heart. Now, I did eventually go with One Heart, but I didn't do it right after Mark told me because I just wasn't ready for it. And so I keep doing this research, and I have people on the podcast that are talking about doing these ayahuasca experiences. And here's what kept coming up with every single human being. I would say, well, what was your experience like? And they all say the same thing. It'll change your life, or it'll change your fucking life. I mean, I've heard it so many times. It's one of those two. It'll change your life, or, the expletive is involved. So then I got even more curious. Okay, what is this? And I went to Trey's baseball game, and one of the dads on the team, his brother-in-law, is the CEO of One Heart. So the same company that Mark had told me about, he is going on a journey, and I would come to find out it was actually his second journey, is what they call them. And so I believe in threes, and that's now two that people have said, ayahuasca, you should check it out. And then B, they also said the same name of this company, One Heart. The last time that this came up, I was doing a podcast asking about his ayahuasca experience, and he says, it'll change your life. I have a great company for you, One Heart. And I apologize, I can't think of who it is off the top of my head. But when I heard that third, it'll change your life, I said, all right, it's time for me to take a look at this. Now, I had asked someone I work with, I call her our energy healer. She's amazing, Heather. I'll give a quick shout out if anybody's ever looking for someone that knows things about things they can't. I'm not calling her psychic, but she's definitely in that realm. And when I initially had asked Heather about 2.5 years ago, she says, you're not ready. And so it would be about 4.5, maybe 5 months ago now that I said, hey, I'm really looking at ayahuasca. And she looked at me, she said, it's time. And so that was when I decided, all right, I'm going to commit to this, because personal development, self-growth, self-development, that's obviously a huge part of what I enjoy. And with everybody saying it'll change your life, I wanted to know what can this do? And the way I lost my dad, for those of you, I lost my dad March 6th, 2022, because he had killed himself. I knew there was some stuff that was in there that I wanted to address. I knew that there was some unresolved issues, even with all of my tools of journaling and meditation and talking to people. I still wasn't able to really access my dad. So I knew that was a big point of clarity going in. The second one was really let's go win, being clear on what the direction of the company is. Because again, is it self development? Is it leadership? Is it literally just some cool hobby? And it's not. It's a little bit of all of those. But I wanted to know exactly with the mental health space if that's the direction I really wanted to go in. So I wanted to get clarity by going on the retreat. And so those were really the two things that I was going in for. So this is a week-long retreat it's called Kincara is the name of the area in Costa Rica, which, by the way, is one of my favorite countries. I always put it in my top 3 because the country is beautiful. The people are absolutely amazing. So I was excited to go to Costa Rica anyway. Now, prior to going on it, they call this an 8-week immersion that you're really in. And before you leave, you start on a dieta, which is a very specific diet, which basically cut out any red meat, sugars pretty much altogether, no alcohol, no sex, or I don't know how to say it, really taking care of yourself, any ejaculation of any kind. You're not supposed to do that for at least 2 weeks prior. So it's really a cleansing of the body so that you're really prepared going into this journey. And so I did that, and I was very strict with it. For those of you that know me, to take out tequila for even that length of time, that you're asking a lot because I absolutely love it. But I was serious about this. I really wanted to have the best experience of this journey. Fly to Costa Rica on May 20th, and that starts the journey. We meet in a hotel in San Jose before we all get together for about a 3.5, 4-hour bus ride. Now, what's really cool about the way, and I'm not going to give everything away because One Heart does some special things that if any of you choose to do it, I don't want to give that away. But there's preparation that they do on the way up there, really getting clear on what are your intentions of this week? What are you looking to accomplish? Are you clear on exactly why you're here? And so for the 2 weeks prior, there's exercises to do on the bus ride up. We certainly did that. And there's about 40 of you in this experience that, or at least that was the size of the group that I was with. And it was just amazing because you're meeting these people you've never met for the first time. And anybody that's gone through this experience, they're very open, they're very loving. And I'm generalizing, of course, but that was the overall feel when you get there. It's like your brothers and sisters immediately, and they're hugging. And so it was a really welcoming and warm atmosphere. Get to Kincara. It's an amazing resort. The best way to describe it would be kind of glamping, where we were staying in tents, but you had amazing bathroom facilities, amazing. Oh my gosh, the food, guys, was incredible. And again, it's all dairy free. The majority is gluten free, which for me, that's perfect on both accounts. A lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits. And so it's really a clean, organic diet that you're on going on the journey and when you get there. And so the first evening we have our dinner, we do a little bit of exercise, and then, it's basically we get ready for the next day. And meditation, journaling, yoga, that's all a big part of this retreat. It's not just these ceremonies. But the second night, so we got there late on a Saturday, that second evening is when we're going to do the first ceremony. Now, what I didn't know about ayahuasca is how truly sacred this is. This comes from Peru, Costa Rica, Brazil. There's various areas that this plant medicine comes from. And I'm not an expert on it, but it's certainly, I learned quite a bit while I was there. And what you learn about when you're there is how these tribes for thousands of years have used this plant medicine to access parts of their subconscious, to really get clarity on their vision, to eliminate fears. And so I didn't know that going in. And it was funny. Everybody that asked me is like, well, you've done, again, you've done something, right? You've done mushrooms, you've done something. I'm like, no, I haven't done any of this. This is so foreign to me. And so I didn't know 100% what to expect. I definitely had some butterflies. I told the people I was with, felt like I was going into a big basketball or football game. Like the butterflies in my stomach were going. And so you get to your area, and this is the part that I think people really, when they hear of ayahuasca, they're turned off, because is there purging involved? Yes, there is. And people talk about, whether throwing up is a part of it. You hear people talking about people shitting themselves. That was not the case at least my journey. And so this is one of those things where people are like, I'm not going to do that just for that. When you get to the ceremony, you see the way it's set up and everybody has their bucket. It makes sense that a purge, releasing this energy, this stuck energy, it makes sense. But again, I'm just seeing the setup. We have your mat and you have your bucket, and you're really getting set up for about a 7-hour ceremony. And so they serve them in little cups, and think of a Dixie cup about halfway full. And so I go up for my first cup, and you go back to your mat. And my main thing was you're silent throughout this ceremony, other than the medicine team, who is either describing what the ceremony is, describing about the plant medicine, describing kind of why this particular plant medicine, what it can really do for you. But when I got back to my mat, I really spent that time meditating, spending time on my intentions. And so about an hour or so, and again, I didn't really know time for the most part while I was there, but about an hour is when it would start to kick in. And for me, I felt nothing after that first cup. And so when the medicine team asked, would anybody like a second cup? I immediately went up, and she asked, are you feeling the medicine? I said, no. And she said, that's okay. It's very common. And so I did a second cup. And by the time my mat was maybe 20 minutes, 20 feet away from where I was receiving the medicine. By the time I got to my mat, I was absolutely feeling the medicine. And when I say that, it went into a journey of, think of being in ColecoVision came to mind, or Atari, or think of video games, and these bright colors. And I am 100% immersed into another world. What started to happen is I really dug deep into my intentions. And one of my intentions was my dad. And so I started to ask Daddy, I called him Daddy, which I've never remember ever calling my dad that. But apparently I did when I was very young. And I said, Daddy, are you okay? And I kept asking, Daddy, are you okay? I could see his back turn from me. And I got pissed. I was like, after it felt like hours. And I said, fuck, Pops. And I always called my dad Pops. I said, Pops, are you okay? And he turned to me and he said, I'm okay, JM. And that's the name that my parents have always called me, is JM. So that inner child is being spoken to now. He said, I'm safe. I'm happy. I'm home. And for me, it was one of the most freeing, peaceful experiences I've ever had in my life, because I could see him. We communicated. And for some people, they may not understand that. But what I would tell you is I have and had in that moment, and still have today, a level of peace I've never experienced in my life, where I knew he was okay. And I knew that he was safe and that he was okay. That was the main idea. So then I started going into people that I loved and I cared about. And many of you listening, you were a part of that. But I started with my wife and my kids. I really checked in on all of them, went through, my mom and my sister and her family, my brother and his family. And I went through a list of people. And at some point, the medicine said, JM, what about you? because I hadn't spent any real time on me at this point. And that's when I went through a moment of, again, peace and forgiveness for any transgressions I had done throughout my life. Being a raised Catholic, I guess it was kind of like erasing some sins, but that wasn't what my intent was, but that's what I was receiving, was really forgiveness for so many people I hadn't thought of in years, for anything that I had felt wronged about, or for myself. So that was pretty amazing. And then the last thing was, there was this explosion, and it was of any fears that I had. It was just, they were gone. Now, I don't really feel like I have a lot of fears, or at least that's something that, consciously I don't recognize a lot of those fears, but the subconscious, it was certainly there. And so that journey lasted, like I said, about 7 hours. Now, many people were getting up. There's amazing music and there's dancing. I was not in that state. I was really locked into my bed. And so that ceremony ended about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. People would go have food. I legitimately went to the restroom, brushed my teeth, and back to sleep in my tent. I woke up about 6, still feeling it, but feeling amazing at the same time, having this level of peace and forgiveness and just no fear. It's really a remarkable feeling. Now, that evening, we have another ceremony. And so I'd said no fears, but there was a little bit of anxiousness about that because of this extremely vivid, amazingly terrifying, and yet compelling, profound experience I went through. I don't know if I was ready for another one, but it's coming. And so you go through the day where you have integration, you talk about, what your experience was. And so that evening we got ready for another ayahuasca journey. And that night I was very clear that I wasn't looking to go as deep. And so I only had one cup that evening, spent a lot of time in a just a level of peace that, again, I hadn't experienced. And 7 hours flew by as I meditated. I slept. I thought of people. And so that was kind of the journeys. That was the one that maybe wasn't as profound. The next day we have a sweat lodge experience, which is great. If you haven't done a temescal, it was amazing. Absolutely, again, sacred and ceremonial. And then we have our last journey. Now, this journey is a daytime ceremony. And I knew going in, I wanted to experience that peace. And I really had this feeling of wanting to go home because I had really received what I was looking for, but I had committed to being there and I was going to give everything I had. So we go through the daytime ceremony, very similar setup. I had one cup, and I immediately it hit me. I mean, almost immediately I could feel it. And it was a beautiful day in Costa Rica. I went outside and I really grounded myself in nature. And here's what's amazing. The creative juices just started flowing. I mean, I wrote 2 different speeches that I will use with audiences, no question about it. And I wrote a poem, which I'm going to share with you guys because I was watching this black hawk that followed me most of the week. And I really felt like that was my dad being with me, but he followed everywhere, he or she, this amazing bird. And so I'm sitting there outside, really grounding with nature. And I wrote this poem, and it's called Perfection. I have witnessed perfection today. What's that you say? I have witnessed perfection today. Often it's said that perfection is the enemy of greatness. While that may be true, that's only true when you resist the true you. When you are free, full of love and abundance, perfection will return to you. You are whole. You are loving. You are strong. You are joy. You are powerful. Your true self is never wrong. You are perfect. You are perfect. You are perfection. And I only share that with you because it was so profound I don't believe in perfection. I really don't, because I do think it's somewhat the enemy of greatness. But watching this hawk flying through the air, I witnessed it where there was no effort, there was no resistance. It was just this amazing animal or guide or whatever it was that was in absolute harmony with nature, and it was beautiful. So to wrap this up, because my gosh, it's already been 20 minutes. What did I find on my journey, on my ayahuasca journey? I found peace. I found forgiveness, strength, freedom, love, and abundance. Now, it was one of the most challenging weeks of my life. It is work. When you hear people talk about deep work, 100% that was deep work that took place. It wasn't a vacation. This was diving into things that are happening in our subconscious. So if you ask me right now, would I do it again? I don't know, man. I as amazing as it is, I don't know. It was really challenging. But if someone's listening right now and you don't know a way, you don't know how to access your subconscious, you know that the life can be way more fulfilling than what you're experiencing, 100% I would tell you, go check it out. One Heart is an amazing group. They're out of Costa Rica. Their entire team, including Brandon, who's the CEO, absolutely amazing team. You will feel love in a way that you probably don't get to experience often, because there is no judgment. There is no shame in there. It is 100% just being open. And there's lots of tears. There's lots of tears of joy and sadness, and you experience all of these things. But for me to have this level of forgiveness, this level of peace, and this level of no fear, I hope everyone can experience it at some time. And if someday I lose that, then maybe I will go back. Maybe that plant medicine will speak to me again. But I want to do this podcast more just to explain to people what ayahuasca really is, what the experience was for me, for someone that really was not open to doing psychedelics or anything like that. It was absolutely an amazing experience. It did change my life. And if you ask people that are around me, they'll say, he's really calm about everything. And I hope that lasts. I really do. But there's one last piece that I haven't mentioned. The community within this group is remarkable. And once you've gone through this journey, now they can relate to you. You can relate to them. And so I picked up a whole host of amazing human beings that are part of this One Heart community. So if anybody's ever looking, you have questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to explain my experience. I'm happy to share the good, the bad, and the ugly, because I think there's all of that in that amazing week of work that you do. But it was profound, and it was really, really special. So I hope that helps you, because it truly did help me being happy. I'm healthier now because I don't have these lingering things in my subconscious. And with the company, with Let's Go Win, it's amazing what abundance is coming into my world right now. The amount of receiving that is happening, because I've given, I give, and I like to, trust me, I do. But being out of balance with giving and receiving is problematic as well. So it checked every single box for why Let's Go Win exists, to be happy, healthy, wealthy. And so I cannot vouch enough for it, for anybody that's even wondering what it is, or is curious, or is dealing with traumas, which we all have. This is a real tool. It is something that you can absolutely benefit from. So I appreciate you taking this ride with me for 25 minutes or so. I hope the stories helped explain kind of what it was. And again, if you want to hear more, you can reach out to me at any time. Let's Go Win 365. Obviously, share the Let's Go Win podcast, because I think other people can benefit from One Heart, from ayahuasca. And I appreciate you guys. All right. Until next time, remember, your mindset matters. I appreciate you all so very, very much. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, JM Ryerson.